Okay, folks, let's reconvene. I'll just mention one order of business. Some years we have a January meeting. Recently, it seems like every time we tried it, we had bad weather. So I think this year we're going to forego the January meeting and we'll reconvene for a regular March meeting instead. It's good to have everyone here. I will make a pitch for our organization. We're very expensive to join. It's a whole $10 a year. We're always looking for new members. We benefit any extra proceeds we end up with go to the North Carolina room for Burke County Library here in Morganton. And Lori Johnson is here tonight, somewhere. There she is in the back. Are you the curator, librarian, either, both? What is your title?
Officially curator.
Okay. So Lori is the curator of the room. And, yes. And she and Dottie Irvin are partners in crime, involving a lot of things at the library and so forth. Tonight, we're very pleased to have with us Fred Epley, whom I think the vast majority of you know personally. I had the pleasure of meeting him tonight. And Fred's had a wide variety of experiences in his background. I'm not going to go through it. I think you told me you taught 27 years in Burke County?
No, not in Burke County.
No, some in Kentucky and some other places, and Morgan High School and Freedom High School, and has done other things as well. He's quite a master of activities, as you know better than me. He's written 2 previous books, Growing Up in Ottie's World and A Tar Heel Marches. And tonight he's going to speak to us, Don't Let the Green Wave Drown You, concerning largely, I guess, Glen Alpine High School. And they were the Green Wave. I went to Drexel, and we were always, that was our main opposing school, was Glen Alpine. And we had cheers, especially for them. What are we going to do tonight? PGA. We didn't do it very often, especially in football. I tell you, that was a good football team. Did my senior year, and that was one of the few. But Fred is going to talk to us about, I guess there'll be other things, special things about Glen Alpine as well. My great-grandparents lived there a number of years, so I have a little bit of Glen Alpine background myself. So this time we'll have Fred come up and speak to us.
Good evening. I have been looking forward to this night. And as I look around, I see friends. Long-time friends. Friends that we have fought together. We've worked together. We've done projects together. And I am overjoyed, and I thank all of you for being here tonight. There are some special people I'd like to present to you. This is Larry Cady, who does all of the technical material for the books. We do our own publishing, everything. I write the books, I type the books, we do the pictures, we do the templates. The company publishes, they don't help you, that's it. If you make mistakes, they're there, you can't do much about it.
They'll help you, then you sell your soul.
Right, exactly. And so without this brilliance in technology, I couldn't do a book here. My editor is here with us tonight. This is the one who makes my papers bleed in colors. She says I don't use red, so she's kind and uses multicolors. This is Miss Julia Pittman. She taught 35 years at Freedom High School, Drexel, and others. We were colleagues. And without her, how could you get a book done? There's no way. So Julia, thank you very much. Let's see here. We have a special person here tonight, and I believe her name is Anel Young Malawi. Is that not correct? As I was researching the book, I began to think, who were the people that were most instrumental in creating this high school and pushing it to excellence? Of course, the teachers. But I thought and thought, and I asked classmates and people in the community, and they said W.A. Young. And this is W.A. Young. And I have his signature here under the picture. And his wife, Nell Young. I sat in this chair many, many times, trying not to flunk Algebra 2. So she taught it to me a second time in study hall. And so we have these two photos, and on the back of this one I have written, to Annelle Young Mullowee, as a tribute to the two people who created Glen Alpine High School, your parents. I present these photos in gratitude for their contributions to my life. Annelle, I'd like to present this to you. Thank you. In the question and answer period, would someone remember to ask me how I decided to write? I'm going to make my comments about 30 minutes. We've had a good meal, and we tend to want to sleep, so if I see Ann Fisher sleeping, I'm going to come and stand beside her like this. So anyway, I hope to have an opportunity for you to ask some questions when we finish. I do have books for sale. They're $20 each. We take cash, we take credit cards, debit cards, and your firstborn children, so I'm worried about whether you can afford them. I first wrote Audie's World in 2015. I started writing at the age of 70. And this book came out of my pain and sorrow of the way I was raised, and of her sad circumstance. And I thought one day I cannot live any longer with this pain and sorrow. So my teacher in the first, second, and third grade had said to us, if it gives you trouble, child, write it out. And so I said, that's it, write it out. Well, I had decided after retiring, I wanted to learn a new skill every year for the rest of my life. I picked antiques. Oh boy, don't go that way. And then I said, I want to learn to make wine. And after 500 bottles of wine, realizing I'm diabetic, I don't even drink wine, and they're stuck on my shelves. What am I doing? And then one of my friends said, well, you haven't tried writing. Audie's World, I wrote in a notebook, 3 notebook papers, by hand. I can't use that thumb now. And then realized you can do it on the computer if you work at it. So that was the first one. Then I wrote book 3. This is about Berea College. You are looking at living history. I was a part of the march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. I was a firebrand in the 60s. And I realized Oprah made a movie, but she wasn't there. Someone had to tell her. I was there. I can tell you all about it. And so I thought, I better do that. I didn't talk during my school years about this because you're bound to make somebody mad. And I thought, I don't want to deal with this at the time, but now I want to deal with it and tell the story. And then I went back and wrote Don't Let the Green Wave Drown You, because I realized there was a missing book. You can't go from graduating or going into high school and going into college. So I wrote that to fill in the blank pages in between. Okay, Larry? The cover of the book is drawn by Carol Taylor, who has a beauty parlor out near Allstate. Fantastic artist. She did the Green Wave and superimposed a picture of the school building that was made in 1959. I'm going to read for you now just a couple of paragraphs. These are excerpts from the prologue, because I wanted to set the love that everyone who lived in Glen Alpine felt for that school. And I kept thinking, well, I'm going to sort of make this a religious introduction. It goes in the following way. And God came down to survey the earth that he had created. He brought his easel stocked with varied colors, paints, inks, and brushes, because he thought that his creation was not yet complete. He walked the continents of his earth. There was a smooth canvas of land along the hills of Appalachia that drew his attention. He sat down in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina and began to paint. He painted misty mountains green with balsam and pine. He knelt on his knees and dabbed out river valleys. He stuffed green gobs of paint on his canvas to make moss and fern. He hung trailing arbutus from rich hillsides and flung redbud trees far and wide. Their pink hue made the mountains blush. He packed the mountains with laurel and rhododendron and strung the sky with buttermilk clouds. I love my artwork, thought God. This spot will be one of my secret places where I shall come to play and think. In order not to forget the special spot, God placed his hand within his breast, broke off a small piece of his own heart, and he showered it lovingly across the hills and ridges. The light from his heart spread to Table Rock, to Grandfather Mountain, and across the ridges of Brown Mountain. I'll come back here often, whispered God, to inhabit this place. I'll make some stalwart women and men, and I will have them call it Glen Alpine. We are looking at Glen Alpine, and it's pronounced Glen Alpine or Glen Alpine. The locals say Glen Alpine, and you can tell where a person's from if they say Glen Alpine. You'll hear me say both tonight, probably. This is the place in 1900. The original Glen Alpine was a spot that had two families, and it had one black person in there in the late 1860s. There was no name. The engineers that came in by train through called it Turkey Tail because there was a huge tree had been cut, and the boughs grew back like an outstretched turkey feathers. So they just said Turkey Tail. It remained that way until two people named Columbus and Edmund Sigmund came and built a post office and a store. Well, everybody started saying, that's Sigmundsburg. Okay, Louis Emmons family built Glen Alpine Springs Hotel out 64, not in Glen Alpine, it's quite a ways out where it was. And they named it Glen Alpine Springs. So the hoity-toity decided, we're going to go up there and get some of that water and some of the stuff they do. So the railroad built this depot right here so that people could get there. They would come here, unload all of their luggage into wagons, and they'd cart it out beside Glen Alpine High School, out Conley Road to 64. There's an old store building standing where you turn left, and the hotel is out in those mountains. All right, so the name was then changed to Glen Alpine Station so people would know where to get off going to the spot. In 1895, the word station was dropped, and we have the name Glen Alpine or Glen Alpine. Many of these buildings are still here. This one is still here. That was the Hennessy store. Nell and her husband ran that store for many years. The Hennessy, original Hennessy store was here. It's where the post office now stands. The Pitts store was down in this area, and many of you may remember a long time. This was a hog pen. This was a guy's hog pen here. There really were more houses there then than now. This one over here is well known. That was the Glen Alpine Hotel, different from the Springs because people could get off the train and go live there. The Hennessy brick house stands on that spot because the hotel burned quite some time ago. This is the area. Oh, how famous this is. If you drive through Glen Alpine, it's on the left. Everybody has seen this building. And do you know how famous this is? The most famous feud outside of the Hatfields and McCoys happened here and in downtown Glen Alpine. I'll cover that in just a minute. This is the Glen Alpine Hotel, which burned, I think, toward the end of the 1800s. This is the Glen Alpine Depot around 1868. And you can see, I have one coming up that's older, but you can see the horses and everything, but it was a very industrious little place. This one is an older picture of it. You can see the difference in the structure here. All right, let's go up to the area. If you go to Glen Alpine High School, this road is paved. This is the sidewalk, but it was a road that went up. Dr. Gus Hennessy built this. He was a doctor from the Union Army, set up in Glen Alpine. He was one of the first prominent families. The other prominent family was named Pitts. And those names, they're still there, but some of them here in the room. I think, Ben, you told me that
My aunt was his second wife.
the aunt was Gus's second wife. And this is a picture of him here on the horse here. There is a picture on the internet of him in one of the first automobiles that came from Alpine. All right, this is an area, and of course this is his family here on the porch. I don't know, I would say this is the guy because he looks quite familiar to the picture that I have coming up. So this would be Dr. Hennessy and his family in front of the home. By the way, the home's being renovated.
I see that picture, yeah. I may have that at home.
Okay.
That might be my Aunt Ray.
There.
It is her. The lady in the
You never know.
white clouds to the right. She was only like 18 or 20 when she married him, and he was like 35 or something, I think. And they had 2 children together, but I think that, I have that same picture, and I can tell, I'm pretty sure that's her.
Isn't that
That's
wonderful?
Ray Greenlee.
It's serendipitous. The synchronicity is wonderful. Okay, we have some of the buildings identified here. The Bud Pitts Market, Butler Store here, Depot, and this one has the double tracks. Most people never realized that Glen Alpine had a double track, but it did. If you have studied your history, prior to the Civil War, the railroad track ended in Valdez at Spiegel's Turnout. And everything had to be carted to Morganton. After the war, the railroad was built farther on up to Morganton and beyond. This is the Glen Alpine Springs Hotel, the one that was out 64 that was so famous. It was the largest wooden building in North Carolina at the time. It burned in the latter stages of the 1800s. They never replaced it. Louise Evans wrote a book about it, and she won the state award for her book as well with looking at, and I think it's called Glen Alpine Springs Hotel. That's the front of it. There he is, that's Dr. Hennessy. He made the statement, it is said, that he was coming to North Carolina to have tons of children. And I think, Ben, that he did.
His first wife, I know they had at least something like 4 children, and he had 2 behind. He must have had at least 6 children.
He and his wife.
That was his first wife.
Okay. Now let me tell you the story here that is so fascinating. You cannot find information, you can now, but at the time, this feud was so suppressed that you could not find it in any local newspapers. You had to go to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the Cincinnati Enquirer, the Raleigh newspaper. They wrote a lot about it, but the feud was never talked about here locally. He was friends with the Pitts family. Got along wonderfully for years. He and Mr. Pitts went fishing together. Mr. Pitts had a livery stable and he breeded out mules. They would ride his mules to the fishing home. The story is told that at the end of each month, they would settle their bills. Mr. Pitts one month billed Mr. Hennessy for the use of the mules, 65 cents. And Dr. Hennessy said, no, I'm never going to pay that. So the quarrel intensified and it just seethed underneath. Although both men had a hardware store, Dr. Hennessy came one day to buy a horse brush he was out of. Without announcing himself, he walked into the Pitts store. The 2 Pitts brothers were in there, and they saw him. Without a word, they attacked viciously. The fight was so severe that Dr. Hennessy was shot a couple of times. The hands were broken, leaders cut, scalp virtually pulled off. He managed to free himself and go back to the area on the hillside, patched himself up, rearmed himself with his pistol, his scalpel, and his rifle, and he went right back into the fray. Witnesses said that every male, teenager, child there engaged in the fight. It went all up and down the main street. There's an oak tree still there where it happened. Dr. Hennessy stabbed one of the Pitts boys with his scalpel, and he died a few days later. Well, he was charged but was set free in self-defense. Well, the feud intensified, went underground. 5 years later, in 1913, Dr. Hennessy was returning from Greensboro. He got off the train at the depot, and the two Pitts boys had gone to your county, Mitchell County. They had gotten a man named Wiseman to come and assassinate Dr. Hennessy. So the three of them were together. They shot him 8 to 10 times in the back, and he fell dead on the railroad track. Well, the Pitts boys were not charged. Wiseman wasn't found guilty and was sentenced to life, but then they reduced it to 29 years, and then this many, finally he went free. Well, the families just quieted everything down, and no one ever talked about it. And I have heard through the years that members of the family have gotten together and had ended the feud. They have just let that go. Well, this, I'm not disparaging any of the family members. This is history. It happened, and it's a part of the very rich history of where we live.
My great-grandmother was alive.
Oh my, probably kin to the murderer. Write your memoirs, lady. This is Glen Alpine High School. It was built in 1934. Glen Alpine was the first county school system in Burke County. And it was a city school system, not a county whenever I went there. Burke County schools, there was Burke County schools, Glen Alpine City Schools, and Morganton City Schools, operated for years simultaneously. This is the elementary building. See, it's been torn down. There were several buildings on campus there. This is the primary building. I went to school in both of those. This is the gymnasium, the back of it. It's still standing. And part of the reason I wrote this book is to hope to preserve these buildings. I want to point out to you the staff, the people who taught in the primary and elementary. I had a lot of these. Mr. Whitener was the principal of the elementary school. A wonderful man. He worked himself to death.
He hired me.
Did he? All right.
He was at the county office, and I was sitting on Main Street in Morganton, had no idea of the job, and he knocked on the window. He had just seen my husband, and he said, "I need an English and French teacher." He said, "Are you an English and French teacher?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You got to talk."
My favorite teacher is, back up please. My favorite teacher is the tallest woman on the back row. Her name is Miss Wilson. I have written a beautiful story about her. She is the one who taught us that we were green wave. And she told us one day, you are green waves and you are turkey tail lights. Well, we fourth graders thought she said you were turkey tail lights. So we went around yelling and screaming. And Miss Wilson had said that we were turkey tail lights and we were green wave. She took us over. She taught us a cheer about "Don't Let the Green Wave Drown You," and that's the title of the book. And we would go see Morganton and Glen Alpine play in the gym, and she would lead us in the cheers back and forth. So she's the person that introduced all of us to the pride of being a Green Wave. This is Carol Taylor's drawing of the Green Wave that we put on the front of the book. This man gave the name to the Green Wave. Some of you may remember him. He was a writer for the News Herald in about 1949. He wrote in a column that the team from Glen Alpine rolled over the opponent like a green wave. And so people picked that up. We didn't have a mascot up until that point. So he was the person that gave us our name. One of the most treasured items you could have would be a jacket here with a G on it. This happened to be an athletic jacket, but you could get letters in a number of things other than athletics. Nell Young sewed this herself. This is the majorette's outfit, and Nell's mother sewed this. It's in the Green Wave restaurant, which is sort of a non-official museum of the Green Wave. All right, I want to share something wonderful. I didn't know until recently that Nell Young wrote the album out of the school. I don't know if she ever put her name on it because I couldn't find any sheet music. What she did is she took the music from Cornell University. Over 200 schools in America use that. And everybody just plagiarized the music and the words. If you look at Cornell's original words, "Far above Cayuga's water," Nell used this. She put in the heart of Old Burke County, beneath the skies of blue. Over here stands our noble alma mater, glorious to view, likewise here. And they never felt hell to thee, GAS all hell. Second verse, far above the busy humming, down to class again. Looks you proudly down, reared against. It's the chorus. And we sang this in assembly, we heard it played at football games and so forth, where students learned it. I want to now share this song with you. I do not have a recording of the Glen Alpine Alpamata, but I do have one of Cornell University. So now you're going to hear what lifted the hearts and the spirit of the Green Wave.
That's my alma mater.
Fisher here is a graduate of Cornell University. How synchronous. I want to share with you some of the faculty. This is Nell Young here at the typewriter, Martha Thomason, who was in charge of the band. We have Mr. Arrington and Coach Wilson, and this is Russell Gaylord, and this is Bowers, I think, Codfelder, and then Mrs. Bowers. The story of the turkey tail is true. This appeared in a 1948 yearbook, and this is the story of 1951, 50-51. And so they actually told the story of how Glen Alpine came to be known as turkey tail. On the front of the yearbook, you'll see the logo later on here. There's a turkey with a top hat on, and his feet are the years of the class. Like 1951 would form the legs of the turkey. I want to tell you about two very special people. The lunchroom was so meaningful to the country kids because most of us were hungry. The nourishment we received came out of that Glen Alpine High School. There were two women who lived in the time of segregation. This is Willie Rankin and Maggie Pinson. They would get on the bus. I've written a chapter about them. Right down early in the morning. They would work all day in the cafeteria. Early in the morning, those women knew who was poor and who wasn't. And some of the poor kids that come and get them and take them to the cafeteria and open a can of peaches and let them eat before school started. Then they would bring any leftover food like pie, biscuits, or whatever, and they'd slip them to these kids before they went home. They lived in a world in which they were not equal, but they loved those kids, and the love was returned. And they stepped out of their way to make sure that a person was not hungry, or they could do something about them being hungry. So I wrote a tribute to them that if there are trophies given for people who just serve quietly behind the scenes, these women should be honored. We're dealing here with Ms. Thomason, Coach Wilson, that one I don't know. This is Trudy Thompson, Elaine Arrington, this one I don't know, and Frances Stewart. She was my history teacher. I have a story about her called The Red Shoes. Ms. Thompson also did the choir. I have a hilarious story called The Sour Note about me. I couldn't sing a note, but went in the choir anyway. So you want to read about that one? The small school, about 400 and something, with a huge band. Okay, there is a memorial stage in Glen Alpine recently built, and it was built in honor of Betty Brooks, Martha Thompson, and Russell Gaylord. These two people touched every student's life that ever came through Glen Alpine. Every student. And Mr. Gaylord did of the men because everybody took agriculture. It was not required that everybody, yeah, you got to have Mr. Gaylord as a teacher. That's the stage. Miss Brooks did a May Day. The whole school was involved, 1st grade through 12th grade. And we practiced all year long. Then in May, we did the presentation. My love of drama and my major in drama came from experience with these ladies. This is how the high school looks today. And before I go any further, my old French teacher, she's young, but she got me interested in my specialty of French, Rita Robinson here. She is the spirit of Glen Alpine. I walked into the class the first day, I fell in love with the French language. I was bitten, and I still haven't stopped studying and loving French to this very day. Everybody I'm looking at in this room affected my life in some good, positive way or other. It is phenomenal. It's like I'm here tonight to express my thanks and appreciation to you. There was an anomaly. When you begin to explore history, watch out. We went up on a March day to make pictures. Clear day. Do you see any clouds, any rain, anything? Nothing. Back up 1 minute, Larry, if you will. So we decided to make a picture of the building. Now look around you. Do you see any clouds or anything? Now the next picture, they were made 2 minutes apart, if you'll please move there. The second picture, there's a double rainbow coming from the ground, blurring the sign, going over the building. Now the reason I made this, there is a story in my book called Pranks. We would steal people's items. That window was usually open. We'd run down the hallway and hurl them out into the smoke hole. We didn't care if anyone was out there or not. Then if your item was found, you were guilty there. So in Martha Hempel's class, when I made pictures, we got all of this swirling stuff that doesn't make sense here. She was my teacher 2 years in a row. So I started thinking, if you read the Greenway book, and let's see, 2 years before I took this picture, there's a story called All Aboard, and I was trying to imagine where did the Greenway spirit come from. So I said it was a wind that came down from the mountains with spruce and rhododendron. It blew the hats of the engineers off, and it swirled around the depot and around the Erie, and landed in an open field behind the area where 20 years later, Glen Alpine High School would be built. Believe what you wish. This is what Fred believes. There was so much love there. It really is. And in what I'm doing, I was allowed to photograph that Greenway spirit. It appeared as a double rainbow. And it went back. You can see it here. It went back over the Erie. So that rainbow, double rainbow, came over the Erie, came down. Since when do you ever see where a rainbow ends? It ended right there at the end of Glen Alpine High School. So thank you, God, for having a sense of humor. We're talking about a mighty hero here. This is Coach Chuck Wilson and his partner, Lane Arrington. I have a wonderful story about him called The Electric Motor that you will want to read. He dominated football for 20-some years in Western North Carolina. And the cheerleaders, of course. This is the field as it looks today. We thought it was huge and wonderful then, but we did this collage just to show. These are the visitors' bleachers over here.
I sat on that side.
Yeah, well, you know you're going to get beat anyway, so why come?
We won.
Oh, did you?
We did.
There is a set of steps still here. When the team came from the gymnasium, the cleats on their shoes would start to clack at the top of these steps, and it made a sound like crumbs. And the minute that sound was heard, the roar went up from there. Anyone who was there will never forget that. And then they came down the steps and down the highway onto the field. There's a caricature of Chuck Wilson in the Greenway restaurant. It was done by Peterson, a guy named Peterson. When I got permission to make this photo and snap my camera, look what happened. A light came out of his heart.
And you did not use flash.
I did not use flash. I had no flash. So I decided to leave it because I thought, okay, a message back to us. The love is still there. This is the Greenway spirit. This is the restaurant called the Greenway. It is now, it's a museum. It's open every day. Every third Saturday it's open in the evenings with a fish dinner, and there is a performance on the Glen Alpine stage. Go up and visit sometime. Oh, this is the Goat Man. Any of you remember him? The Goat Man, it was Charles McCartney. They called him Chess. He was from Sigourney, Iowa. At the age of 14, he ran away from home, married a Spanish knife thrower in New York. She threw the knives at him. After 2 years, got bored, went back to Iowa and married a not so smart guy named Sadie, who joined him. He lost all of his possessions in the Depression. So he just made a wagon up like this, never bathed, smelled worse than the goats.
How do you make his money?
And took off across the country. He was a con artist. He would sell postcards or pictures, 4 for $1. No, 25 cents each, 3 for $1. And people just give you 3 of those. And he had all kinds of ways of making money. He would preach to people. All right, he came to Glen Alpine, up where that triangle is near the high school. I saw him several times along the highway. Mr. Young said, teachers, the Goat Man's here. If you'd like. By that time, kids were out of there all over to go up and talk with him. Quite an interesting character. He traveled a lot here in Morganton in Georgia. He died at the age of 97 in 1998. Stopped going on the road. It was a lookout mountain near Chattanooga. Some thugs attacked him and killed 8 of his goats, so he gave it up at that point. These are the chapters in the book. There are a number I want to recommend to you. One is called Christmas with the Ingalls. This is probably the high point of my writing here. There's a second one called Rainbows, Thunderstorms and Rainbows. That is quite a nice one too. And then Thunderstorms and Rainbows there. And the epilogue you may find of great interest, because what happened to the Greenway Spirit, well, I told you. Make it a little secret and let you find out. And that's the school as it stands today. Now, we are going to run a videotape which we made, and it's going to show you some of what you saw and much of it which you have not seen. But all the pictures you see relate to what I wrote about in the book. We hope we got it. We're not getting any video. Okay, Lori, help us out here. The technology is wonderful as long as it works. And when it doesn't work, it's okay. Okay. That's the logo, that's part of it. Yay, thank you. Volume needs to go up.